Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. I hope you are all well. Linda, we hope you are starting to feel better. Linda has I didn't realize this has just had. I knew you had COVID, Linda, but you've written there it's your first time you've had it. Wowzers, you did well. Given that your hubby is in the medical profession as a GP, you've done very well to avoid that up until now. Very impressive. Linda, we all hope that you are going to continue to get better and better. COVID is not any fun. Here in Australia, we're heading into our colder months, as many of you know, and it's COVID is on the rise. So is RSV and flu. Certainly where I am locally, it's all the news seems to be headlined with is how much virus is going around. But anyway, let's get on with the show. It's so good to see so many people in the live chat and all the usuals, which doesn't lessen the importance of you being here. It's good to see. I just had a private lesson with Kelly this morning. Hello, Kelly, again. Good to see you again. And Karen from SingWise. It's so good to have Karen join us. And I've seen Dean. I've seen Rebecca from Texas. It's just, again, I've said this before, it's just so cool that we get to hang out on an international basis. You know, here I am in the Southern Hemisphere on the other side of the planet to Texas, and Rebecca's tuning in and joining us. Dean's tuning in from Honolulu, which is just amazing. So, yeah, it's just really cool. And I see Alyssa plays there, and Vishnupriya, Vishnu. I hope I got that right. Today we're doing a Q&A, so as Vishnupriya has put in their question, you can start putting your questions into the live chat. Of course, for you to ask a question, you do have to subscribe to the channel. It's sort of a little gateway that we have just to, you know, keep the chat protected a bit from, you know, all of the nasties, and they can be some people out there like that. Can I tell you, before we get into the Q&A, a couple of things. Firstly, next week we are going to be having Heidi Moss Erickson on again. You'll recall Heidi is internationally known for her work on the brain and how it functions in singing, and she's a singing teacher and a singer, but also has a life as a biologist. She's been on the show before. She is coming on next week to talk with us about play. And I promised you that we would get Heidi back on because we never got a chance to talk about this idea of play in our practice. It's a wording that a colloquialism that I use in my lessons and here on the channel a bit. And so we're going to talk more about that. And it's all about you getting more value out of your vocal practice and having more freedom of expression and exploration. We're going to talk quite a bit about that. Heidi has written on it for journals, and so it's going to be really interesting. The week after that is going to be our last show for the next 2 weeks. So we've got Heidi next week. We've got another Q&A the week after, and then I'm on studio mid-year break for 2 weeks. Only for 2 weeks, but I'll remind you that we're going on break for that period of time. So that will be, I'm looking forward to it. I am going skiing. As many of you know, I'm a passionate skier, live in completely the wrong place of the planet to be a passionate skier. I get to go once a year, and it's just started to snow in the Alpine area in Australia. It's just started literally overnight, which I'm very excited about, because otherwise I was going to be grass skiing, not snow skiing. We are, yeah, so, but let me, again, make sure you throw your questions in there. Linda's going to grab them and put them into the live, the doc for here. But before I do, I just want to tell you, yesterday I had the wonderful opportunity to go and sit under the tutelage of Treneice Robinson Martin. Now, you will remember Treneice. Treneice has been on our show for many times, and I'm hoping I'm pretty certain she'll come on again later this year. I'm hoping. I'm going out to dinner with her tonight, and her dad. Her dad is here in Australia as well. Treneice is from the US, and ANATS, the Australian National Association for Teachers of Singing, they shipped her out here, and her dad has accompanied her, and she has been giving workshops and lectures in multiple universities, and also doing workshops for ANATS. And I was at an ANATS all-day workshop with her yesterday, and it was just wonderful to sit and listen to. I've actually had the opportunity to sit and listen to her in person before, but not as a whole day workshop. And Treneice, if you ever have the opportunity to watch this, I know she's actually teaching today, but bang up job. So much constant teaching energy. And as a person who has given whole day workshops before myself, I know what it costs you as the presenter to do that. And you were just marvelous. And anyway, it was fantastic. Her pedagogy, her approach. One of the challenging things to find in a pedagogue, someone who teaches voice, is someone who is able to marry the science in a practically applied way. Like, they actually know the science. They don't just tell you they know it, they actually know it. And they apply that in a practical outworking, albeit in their own mode, using what Treneice refers to her as her kit bag, her tool belt, I think she refers to it as. And it's wonderful to watch someone work who has that depth of knowledge, has that foundation, and they're not just telling you, oh yeah, no, I know all the science, but I don't reference it because it gets confusing. No, Treneice was able to weave it through beautifully in a highly accessible way, and it was just such a wonderful workshop. So thank you, Treneice, and I am very much looking forward to spending the evening with her and her dad tonight over a meal, which will be great. Treneice and I have had chapters in books together, and not together as in we've got a chapter each, in a couple of books. So anyway, so I've known Treneice for quite some time, and but it was just great to see her yesterday. And yeah, so there you go. A little bit of it's important that we keep learning. I continue to learn. It's one. Can I let you in on a little secret? Well, it's not that much of a secret. One of the reasons I will continue to, I'm not ever thinking of stopping. One of the reasons I continue to do these live hangouts with you is twofold. Well, there's a number of reasons. One of the reasons is I get to hang out with you lot. And we've got a wonderful community here at Voice Essentials that has developed over coming up to, we're approaching, this is our 9th year, I think. We've been doing this a long time together. And so we've really established this wonderful community called Voice Essentials. That's the first reason. The second reason is you often ask me questions that, there are times when a question gets asked and I don't know the answer, and that prompts me to go and do my research, find out more, learn more. And so in me learning more, I'm able to then, provide that information back to you. But also, the third reason, there are probably more if I sat here and thought about it, but the third most obvious reason to me is we get to have onto the channel these leading experts in voice from across the globe who come on and so generously of their own time, they give us their expertise in such an accessible way, and it's free. And in that process, and here's my sort of self-indulgent reason for doing it, I get to sit with these people and learn from them just like you do. I get to ask them questions, and we are learning together. This process is a lifelong pursuit of learning to sing. It just is. We don't know everything there is to know about the voice yet. We probably never will. Not in my lifetime, at least. And so we continue to plumb the depths together, and that's a pretty wonderful thing. Okay. It's so many cool things coming down here. This is I'm looking at the chat. I'm unable to put your, how I like to put your questions onto screen. I'm unable to do that today because, again, the software is playing up, and I have less panic attacks about when the software plays up now, because I've found a workaround that at least allows us to go live. But the one thing I can't do is put your questions up on the screen. And so I apologize for that. I've put another support note into the program that I use, and hopefully we'll get a good response back from them. But it's just one of those things. Okay, so let's get to Vishnupriya. Oh, by the way, if you absolutely must need your question answered today, then you can I say you please put a what's it called, a super chat in, and I'll make sure that we get your question answered as a priority. We always VIP you to the top of the list if you put a super chat in with it, and those proceeds go towards the channel. So thank you. Okay. Vishnupriya Vishnu has written, "Hello, doctor. I am diagnosed with grade 1 Reinke's edema. What can I do to restore my throat and voice, and how do I stop it from progressing further?" I'm looking at that, and is that Reinke's edema? It's written Rankes. Reinke's edema, the Reinke space, there's a space between there are 3 levels to the vocal folds: the epithelium, which is the top layer, the lamina propria, which is the mid layer, and then the muscular body of the vocal fold, which is often referred to as historically referred to as the vocalis muscle. It's the thyroarytenoid, and within that is the ligament. Now, between the top 2 layers, the lamina propria and the epithelium and the lamina propria, is a space like an air pocket, if you will, called Reinke's space, and it there's a number of things it allows. If you feel your hand, if you grab your hand and put your finger onto the palm, and you can feel the skin is on your palm of your hand is very much attached to the muscle that sits immediately underneath it. There's no give on that. If you turn your hand over, you can see that you can move the skin over the muscle and the bone, and it has movement. And in a not dissimilar way, it's not the same for those of you who are going to get all, anatomically exact on me, but in a similar way, that's how your epithelium moves over the top of the lamina propria, and between those two is this space referred to as Reinke space. And if I'm reading, yes, oh, okay, you do mean Reinke's edema. It has been triggered by gastritis. Okay, so what we get is that space can fill with fluid. It's typically protective, and if it's gastritis, it's likely to be a protective response from the gastritis, from reflux, and the other thing that can lead to this is general sickness, and this is the reason. These are the reasons why we're always telling singers to, if possible, avoid singing while sick. Is that edema? Edema is basically inflammation. Edema can lead to a heightened risk. None of this is ever definite, but it can lead to a heightened risk of vocal fold hemorrhage if the voice is continued to be labored while that inflammation is in play. And so as far as how do you stop it from progressing, vocal rest, vocal rest, vocal rest. That's the number one the number one go-to. We have to look for an opportunity for that retained fluid, that inflammation, to recede. If it is being caused by reflux, then a good thing to do there is to look at your diet, look at the things that are triggering the reflux. If it's sickness, we have to let, unfortunately, we've got to let the sickness run its course, medicate if possible, if that's something that can be done in direct connection to your medical professional. But we've got to look for that subsidence of that inflammation before we then go on to continue vocal use. It's when the voice is carrying inflammation, edema, and we continue to really, hammer away at it and place it under vocal load, that's when we run into trouble. So many things, so many chronic, long-lasting issues with the voice can be mitigated avoided to the point of avoidance just by resting the voice. And a couple of days, sometimes a week of intentional relative vocal rest is what the doctor orders, and that can be enough. So hopefully that can help help your Reinke's edema, and you can look to see if it becomes chronic, if it's an ongoing thing, then a laryngology appointment is almost certainly necessary. Steroidal injection may be a part of the process. I think most laryngologists would be reticent to do that until they could really see it was absolutely necessary. But again, these are all things that you would, travel the pathway in accordance with your medical professional and see what you've got going on there. Kelly's Kelly, you always put in super chats, and I'm so humbly grateful for that. Kelly has put in here, you can see it on screen actually, do you have any suggestions on how to steam a tired or recovering throat if one doesn't own the tool you've shown us? The tool being this fellow, and I don't have anything in it at the moment because I've just recently cleaned it, but this is a nebulizer, and you can get steamers where it's actually a personal steamer that goes on your I call it the singer's bong, and you steam it that way. You can look to have a shower where you can really steam up the shower and be in the shower and take the steam in that way. You can put your head over a big, steaming bowl of steaming water. You're going to get more benefit as a facial that way than you are necessarily going to get the steam in. But if you don't have either the nebulizer or the personal steam inhaler, then you would go looking for those other options. Besides that, though, I hit like. I've never seen that before. I just hit like on the, and do I get to, if I do that, I get to hit that love mark. Oh, there it is. See that, Kelly? Yeah, so besides that, I don't really have any other options. You can try gargling. I do have a whole video on gargling. Always make sure that you're not phonating while you gargle. Actually, Linda, and at the moment I say in our Q&As, the moment I'll let you in on the background, the moment I say I do have a video on XYZ, Linda then goes looking for said video to try and find it, to try and put it into the time codes. Linda, now that I say that I've got a video on it, I'm not sure whether that's gone live yet. So we'll have to, I can't remember, because my videos are already posted all the way through to the end of December, believe it or not. And so I can't remember if that one's a pre-record. And anyway, Linda said, I won't get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, please don't, because I could have sent you on a wild goose chase there. Some gargling will be helpful, perhaps, Kelly, just to help to hydrate that area. That might be helpful, but you don't want to phonate while you gargle. And gargling lightly, like saline water, so putting some rock salt into some water and gargling that can help. When I say lightly salted, and that's what we use in our nebulizers, we use a saline solution. The reason we do that is because the fluid, the moisture that comes out, the moisture that comes out in our tears, it's slightly salty. That's saline, and we want to, in one sense, we're trying to emulate that body fluid by gargling with some saline water or nebulizing with it. So, Kelly, I hope that's helpful, and thank you for the super chat. Adam is our next question. How do we have clear throats? My phlegm keeps bothering me. Is my diet bad? And in brackets, it's bad. Adam, your diet might be contributing to your sense of phlegm. There are 3 main contributors to phlegm. These are not the only ones, but they're typically the contenders. Number 1 is it can be due to a lack of hydration. So when our body systemically is not well hydrated, the vocal tract, the mucosal layer, the mucosa, becomes a bit gluggy, and we feel that, and it becomes a bit claggy, and as a result, it feels phlegmy. That's number 1. Number 2, it can be due to postnasal drip, which can be brought about by 2 things. It can be brought about by allergies. I know for me, I noticed actually yesterday before I left to go to the workshop with Treneice, Dr. Treneice, I said to Jody, my wife, I said, can we put because my wife was going to do, wash our bed sheets, And I said, can we please do a 95-degree wash on those today? Because I was starting to notice my allergies playing up, and I have an allergic response to what are they called? Dust mites. And I wondered whether the dust mites might be contributing. And sure enough, the next morning last night when we slept in the new, the freshly cleaned 95-degree sheets, virtually no response. So it may well have been that was the case. And so you've got to identify what are your triggers for your allergies. The reason I tell you that story is because when I do have my allergy response, I am drowning in my own gunk. Adam, not that you wanted that level of detail, but that creates a lot of phlegm for me. The third reason we get postnasal drip, which is also the third contributor often to filling phlegm, is reflux. And because we're getting this regurgitation, laryngeal pharyngeal reflux disorder can then lead to a protective response, where the vocal tract wants to secrete, and the nasal passage will want to secrete additional mucus, and so we're fighting that, and that can be the thing. So you really do have to go along, go looking for the right things. As far as your diet goes, you do need to look at that, because the diet may well be contributing to that heightened reflux response. It could even be allergy response. The allergy part, as far as your diet, is something you'd want to talk to about with your medical practitioner. But they're the three main ones, Adam, and I'd be looking into those if you can. Because they're the main contributors, and I hope that's helpful. But apart from phlegm, I encourage you, Adam, pay attention to your diet. I don't know how old you are, Adam, but can I tell you, the older you get, the more you realize how important a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle, all of these things are so important. When I was in my 20s, I could eat anything, like anything. And my metabolism was such that, I couldn't have put on weight if I'd wanted to. But I can tell you, and so as a result, I probably ate more junk than I really should have. Now that I'm a little older, actually considerably older, I can tell you that my body just doesn't handle junk like it used to. And so I'm always in search of a more healthy approach. By no means am I a, nutritionist when it comes to my diet, but we do eat. Jody makes sure that we eat healthy, and I encourage it for you vocally. A healthy diet and eating in moderation will go a long way to your vocal health. It really will. Robert Dantas has asked me to react to Gabrielle Henrique's Emotions by Destiny Child. Thanks for the recommendation, Robert. I have, and I take it from your comment that I have reacted to quite a few of Gabrielle's performances. For those of you who don't know who Gabrielle is, he's, I want to say he's Brazilian, isn't he, Robert? Make sure you let me know in the comment section below. I'm fairly confident he's Brazilian, I want to say. Robert, I'm waiting for your comment to confirm or deny. I'm pretty sure he's Brazilian. Anyway, he's a great voice, and comes across as being a lovely human being. So I've done quite a few of his. So I'll have to have a look at that Emotions by Destiny's Child. Robert, the other thing, and I'll tell you, so here's another thing that you can learn today about the back workings of the channel. I have already recorded the, Brazilian, thank you, Linda. I've already recorded performances, reaction videos all the way through to the end of October. Like, that's how far I try to be ahead. And so, Robert, if you don't see that Gabrielle, reaction anytime soon, you'll know why. Destiny Lord has put in a question here. May I ask? And it's right there at the bottom. You can see it here at the bottom of the screen. Let me see if I can. If I do this, hang on a second. No, come on. If I do that, can you see it at the bottom of the screen there? Destiny Lord has written, Dr. Dan, may I ask, why do you think young aspiring singers take things like voice type so seriously and have such heated discourse surrounding it, specifically about singing high? Well, it's interesting. Hang on a second. I'm back. It's interesting, Destiny. I don't know that it's, restricted to just younger singers. There is quite a bit of heated discussion that gets applied to this whole area of debate of vocal type. And it was wonderful to again just to sing the praises of Treneice yesterday. She was doing a masterclass, and one of the singers was singing a Whitney Houston piece. Now, the Treneice is an African-American woman. Great voice, like stellar voice. And this white Caucasian lady was, for her masterclass, singing, and she did a pretty, bang-up job, and she was singing a Whitney Houston piece. Trying to remember what the song was. But, it doesn't have to be, I'm not telling anything you don't know. Whitney Houston is hard. It's not easy to sing Whitney's material. And Treneice, just as she was doing the workshop, just said, I would not choose to sing this song. This is outside my soul expression, is what she said. And she wasn't purely talking to the content of the piece. She was talking to the voice type, what the song required of her voice anatomically was what I took from it. And it was so good once again to hear someone who actually knows what they're talking about speaking to the fact that, even though she's an African-American woman with an amazing voice, she's not going to think she's going to sing the Whitney Houston song. Why? Because it's not anatomically what she's geared up to be. Her anatomy does not do that. And it just, once again, there is, it's not only political misinformation that we find online. It's also stuff to do with singing. And I've said before here on the channel, we often find ourselves wanting what we don't have. The majority of male voices are baritone. That is, they sit almost like a bell curve in the middle. They're neither extremely high nor are they extremely low, but the baritone voice has a beautiful richness to it that if they took time to explore tone and the color of the voice, then they would discover some really beautiful things about being baritone. But of course, in the modern age, right now, that's not what we hear presented and celebrated. We hear the minority, and that is the really high voices doing extremely high notes, and yeah, it sounds great, but that's not what voice is all about. And so, Destiny, I think young people, and again, I don't think it's only young people, but I think young people are drawn to what they're listening to and wanting to replicate their favorite artists, and so they find themselves heading towards that. You've added to the question here. It's specifically about singing high, discourse around singing high so intense, and I've seen people react as if their mum got murdered when told they can't or shouldn't sing. Yeah, they do. And I, every time I make a comment like this, there is a certain level of vitriol that gets targeted back at me, basically telling me, don't tell me what I'm not allowed to do. Unfortunately, those same people, when they do, throw caution to the wind and find themselves extending their voice beyond what is safe, they often pay the price. And but I have had the great privilege of then helping those same people rebuild their voice and reestablish their vocal health, to then have them habitate the voice that they are born with, and to learn to work with that. And I think that's something that we can all learn to do, to become comfortable in our own skin. The older you get, hopefully the easier that becomes. Hopefully. It doesn't necessarily become easy for everyone, but I think we're all on that journey of being, this is what you've got. This frame that you have, this is it. And learning to love that frame and work to its strengths, not purely its weaknesses, I think is something that we can all learn from. I'm going to come back up here to a question that was left over from last time. Flink Codem. Well, that's a new one. Flink Codem asked in a previous chat, if they're asking this question of me, if you had to rewrite terms like head voice, chest voice, and mix, what would it be? Well, Flink Codem, far be it from me to add, more mud to the mix, because, excuse the use of the term mix, there are so many different terms. And in fact, I have a whole video on this that you can check out, where I talk about, head voice, chest voice mix. But in that video, I also reference some of the historical labels that have been used, like heavy mechanism, light mechanism, mode 1, mode 2. They're the more recent ones, actually. Thyroarytenoid dominant, cricothyroid dominant. These are all synonymous terms. Some of them I find personally more helpful in vernacular than others. But regardless, when I'm with a student, I go to a point of explaining my use of the term and making sure that we are both on the same page in the use of that term. And I think regardless of what term is used, as long as the two people in the discourse understand what the other means when they say mix, because that's the challenge, is that sometimes when someone says mix or someone says head voice, that can mean something different to one person than to another. And so, for example, when I use the term head voice, I actually reserve the term head voice and separate it from falsetto, because in fact, the terminology that I would use would be lower register, upper register, which would be mix. Sorry, upper register, which would be head voice, and then up above that's falsetto, and then mix is the way you move between all of the above and how you weight it. But the challenge is, and continues to face us, is that we don't yet have, and I don't know that we ever will have, and I'm not sure that I would ever advocate for an absolute codified language. I wonder whether the horse is bolted on this topic in a unified language, in part because I think the powers that be would really struggle to come to a collective distilled agreement on what language we're all now going to use. And how do you, this singing teaching thing is a global industry. It's a global community now. How do you communicate that to a global community? Very challenging, very difficult. And so I am not going to create my own terms. I'm going to use the terms that are in the general science, and that's why I used the Thurman and Welch, which is derived from using language like TA dominant, CT dominant, those sorts of things. And one last question, then we're going to finish for the day. I hope you've enjoyed today's live hangout. Hit the thumbs up button if you have. Ultra Blast LT has asked, from what I've garnered online, I think I'm a tenor. Cool. I'll have to get a teacher to confirm it. My question is, can someone have a speaking voice lower than their singing voice? Firstly, Ultra Blast, I really want to affirm your desire to confirm your voice type with a singing teacher. I think that's a great idea. I do have, as you know, I've got an online tool, a video that steps you through it. But to have that confirmed by an expert, someone with experience in qualifying voice type, such a good thing to do. Really, really think that's fantastic. The question is, can someone have a speaking voice lower than their singing voice? More often than not, your spoken voice is going to sit in a lower spot, what's called your fundamental speaking pitch, will often sit lower than where you might find yourself singing. That can be driven by a number of different things. It can be driven by a lack of singing technique. It can be driven by your fundamental speaking pitch actually being too low. Maybe it needs to be higher. There are a number of individually driven aspects that could lead that, and sometimes it can be the opposite. Sometimes your speaking voice can find itself being higher than what you want to sing with the use of your voice for singing. So it's not cut and dry. And again, when you have this all affirmed by your singing teacher, when you get your voice type confirmed by them, that would be a really positive thing for you to work through with them, and they can then explain to you what's going on. And yeah, I hope that's all helpful. Destiny Lord is just saying, I want to say thank you very much for allowing me to debate one point I disagreed with last week. We had a respectful discussion. We did, Destiny, and I really appreciated that too. I thought that was a really good opportunity for us to have some really healthy, back and forth on that particular topic. If you're watching the show today and you're wondering, what are they talking about? Was it last week or the week? No, it might have been last week that we had that discussion. It might have been a couple of weeks ago. We had some good healthy discussion, and That's what we do here at Voice Essentials. We're respectful to each other. No one has a monopoly on knowledge, me included. I have what I would refer to as well-founded and developed ideas, but it doesn't make me infallible. And I too enjoyed our back and forth last that you're referring to, Destiny. So thank you. Fantastic. Another live hangout. Sorry I couldn't put your questions up, live on screen, which I actually prefer to do because you can then see the question but hopefully we'll get some answers around the support for that and yada yada. Next week, Heidi Moss coming back on. Oh, she's a lot of fun. She's so much fun and so knowledgeable, like crazy knowledgeable. We're going to be talking about play and practice. The week after that, we're going to do a Q&A. I want you, make sure you tune in for both of those shows because then we're on 2 weeks break after that. I'll be swooshing down the slopes as long as there's enough snow to do so. I'll be on the slopes doing my annual, ski fix for the year. By the time we get there, my family are pretty much sick and tired of my daily reports on the snow and what's happening and what's the forecast. And anyway, I do hope you're all healthy. Linda, please make sure you get better. COVID is no fun, and we're all hoping that you can rest up and be feeling a lot better in the coming weeks, coming days. I want you better in days, not weeks. But yeah, I hope you're feeling better soon. We'll see you all again next week. Have a great week wherever you are, and we'll see you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.